When we talk about setting goals, the very first step is clarity, because clarity is power. You can't hit a target you can't see. Too many of us walk around with vague desires, saying things like, I want to be successful, or I want to be rich, or I want to be happy. But what does that even mean? Success looks different for everybody. And if you haven't taken the time to define it for yourself, you'll chase everything and end up with nothing. It's like trying to get on a plane without knowing the destination. Sure, you'll end up somewhere, but chances are it won't be where you wanted to be. Clarity forces you to be honest with yourself. It requires you to strip away all the noise, all the opinions of other people, and get down to what truly matters to you. It's easy to borrow goals from others, to want what your friends have, to copy what you see on social media. But if you're not clear on your own definition of success, you'll never feel fulfilled even when you achieve those things. That's why I always tell people, stop chasing what looks good and start asking yourself what feels right. What do you wake up thinking about? What keeps you up at night? That's where clarity begins. Now, clarity isn't just about the destination. It's also about the details. It's not enough to say, I want to get fit. Clarity is saying, I want to lose 20 pounds in 6 months by eating clean and training 4 days a week. See the difference. One is a wish, the other is a roadmap. And when you have that roadmap, suddenly the path in front of you gets a whole lot easier to walk because you know exactly what steps to take. Without that level of clarity, it's like running in circles. You're moving, but you're not moving forward. Another thing about clarity is that it creates energy. When you know exactly where you're going, you don't waste time debating, doubting, or second guessing yourself. You're not drained by indecision. You wake up with a sense of direction, and that direction pulls you forward. Think about how much time we lose every single day just being unclear about what we want to do, unclear about what matters most, unclear about what deserves our attention. When you cut through all of that and set clear goals, you free up so much energy that can now be invested in action. Clarity also gives you confidence. When you're unsure, when your goals are foggy, it's easy to hesitate. But when you've defined your goal with precision, you don't hesitate. You take the shot. It's like a basketball player who knows exactly where the hoop is versus one who's just tossing the ball in the dark. Who do you think is going to score more? Clarity is the hoop. Once you see it, you can lock in, aim, and execute. So don't just dream vaguely. Don't just say you want better. Write it down, define it, make it specific, and make it yours. Because clarity isn't just about knowing what you want. It's about making it real. Once you've gotten clear on your goals, the next question you have to ask yourself is simple but powerful. Why do you want it? Because the truth is, your why is going to carry you a lot further than your excitement ever will. Motivation is easy when things are going well. It's easy when the sun is shining, when you're feeling good, when the results are showing up quickly. But what about the days when nothing seems to move, when you feel like you're giving everything and getting nothing back? That's when your why becomes your engine. That's when it pushes you to keep moving forward, even when every part of you wants to quit. Too many people start with a goal, but never take the time to connect it to something deeper. They say they want money, but they don't know why. They say they want success, but they don't understand what it means for them personally. That's why when challenges come, they fold. A weak why won't survive a strong struggle. But when your why is real, when it's tied to something bigger than you, quitting stops being an option. If your why is to take care of your family, if your why is to break a cycle that's been holding your people back for generations, if your why is to prove to yourself that you can become more than your circumstances, that kind of why doesn't let you quit. That kind of why demands that you keep going. Your why has to light a fire in you. It has to stir up something emotional, something that hits you in your chest. Because discipline doesn't come from logic alone, it comes from emotion. Think about it. Nobody pushes through pain, through sacrifice, through years of grinding just because it sounds like a good idea. No, they push through because the why is so personal, so powerful that the pain feels worth it. You've got to find that reason that makes every sacrifice make sense. And here's the thing, your why can't just be about impressing other people. If your only reason is to prove somebody wrong, eventually that fire will burn out. Because once they stop paying attention, once you prove your point, then what? Your why has to be bigger than the opinions of people. It has to be something that drives you even when nobody is watching. It has to be rooted in who you are and who you want to become. So ask yourself, what's your why? What's the reason you're willing to wake up earlier, stay up later, and grind harder than anybody else? What's the reason failure can't stop you, criticism can't break you, and setbacks can't define you? Until you answer that, your goals will always be fragile. But once you lock in on your why, you become unstoppable. One of the biggest reasons people give up on their goals is because they look at the mountain in front of them and feel overwhelmed. They see the size of the dream, the distance between where they are now and where they want to be, and it feels impossible. And the truth is, if you only look at the end result, it will feel impossible. That's why you have to learn how to break the vision down into pieces you can actually handle. You don't climb a mountain by leaping to the top. You climb it step by step, one small move at a time. When you set a goal, the first thing you should do after getting clear and knowing your why is to ask yourself, what's the first step? Not the 50th, not the 100th, just the first one. Too many people paralyze themselves trying to figure out the entire journey before they even begin. They get caught up in the details, worrying about every possible obstacle, and as a result, they never take action. But if you break it down into small, specific steps, the impossible suddenly becomes manageable. You don't need to know the whole staircase. You just need to take the first step with confidence. Think about a student who dreams of graduating with honors. If they focus only on that final moment, walking across the stage, it feels far away. But if they break it down, they realize it starts with passing this exam, finishing this paper, showing up to class today. That's how dreams become reality, through consistent small wins. The same goes for fitness. You don't drop 50 pounds in a week, but you can commit to eating clean for one meal, then one day, then 1 week. You stack those small wins, and over time, they transform into the big victory you've been chasing. Breaking down the vision also helps you stay motivated. Every time you accomplish one small piece, you build momentum. You start to see progress, and progress is addictive. It gives you proof that you're capable, proof that you're moving forward, proof that the vision isn't just a dream. It's real and it's happening. Without breaking things down, it's easy to feel like you're stuck, even if you're working hard. But when you measure the little steps, you can see how far you've come. And that gives you the confidence to keep pushing. Another reason this is so powerful is because it keeps you focused. When you only think about the big picture, you get distracted by how far away it seems. But when you focus on just the next step, you don't have time to worry about everything else. You simplify the process, and in that simplicity, you find power. Because at the end of the day, success isn't about giant leaps. It's about steady steps that add up. So stop letting the size of your dream intimidate you. Break it down, simplify it, and focus on the next move in front of you. Because when you master the small steps, the big vision always takes care of itself. When you've gotten clear on your goals, when you know your why, and when you've broken that vision down into steps, the next thing you have to deal with is all the noise around you. Because let's be honest, most of us don't fail because we aren't capable. We fail because we're distracted. We start strong, but somewhere along the way, we let little things pull our attention. We say we want success, but then we spend hours scrolling, hours gossiping, hours giving energy to things that don't move us closer to where we said we wanted to be. And then we wonder why progress feels slow. The truth is, you can't give your all to your goals if you're giving pieces of yourself away to distractions. Distractions aren't always obvious either. Sometimes they show up as people who don't share your vision, people who love you but don't understand what you're chasing. Sometimes they come in the form of opportunities that look good but don't align with your path. Sometimes they're comfort, that little voice telling you to take it easy, to relax, to put it off until tomorrow. Whatever form they take, if you don't recognize them for what they are, they will drain your focus and delay your breakthrough. Focus is the most valuable currency you have. It's what allows you to put consistent energy in one direction long enough to see results. If you keep dividing your attention, nothing grows. Imagine watering 10 plants with just a single cup of water. You're spreading yourself so thin that none of them will survive. But if you pour that same cup into one plant consistently, it thrives. Your goals are no different. They need your full attention, not your leftovers after you've given your best energy to distractions. Eliminating distractions doesn't mean you'll never relax, never enjoy life, or never do anything outside of your goal. It means you decide what deserves your time and what doesn't. It means you set boundaries, even when it's uncomfortable. It means you recognize that every yes to something unimportant is a no to the thing you said mattered most. And let's be real, sometimes it's not about cutting things out completely. It's about managing them with discipline. Social media isn't evil. But if you spend 3 hours a night scrolling, don't complain that you don't have time to work on your dream. Entertainment isn't bad. But if you binge shows for days at a time, don't wonder why your vision hasn't moved forward. This is where commitment shows up. Anybody can be disciplined for a day or a week. But true commitment means you're willing to let go of the good so you can make room for the great. It means you're willing to sacrifice short-term pleasure for long-term purpose. And when you learn to shut out distractions, you realize how much more energy, time, and focus you really have to give to what matters. Because the truth is, if you want your goals to happen, you can't just want them. You have to protect them. The mistake a lot of people make is thinking that motivation is what's going to get them to the finish line. Motivation feels good. It's exciting. It's powerful. It gives you a rush when you first set a goal. But motivation is temporary. It comes and goes like the weather. One day you wake up feeling inspired, and the next day you don't even want to get out of bed. If you're depending on motivation, you're setting yourself up for inconsistency. And inconsistency is the enemy of progress. That's why you have to build your foundation on consistency, not motivation. Consistency doesn't care about how you feel. Consistency is about showing up even when you're tired, even when you're stressed, even when you don't feel like it. It's about turning action into habit. When you make something a habit, it no longer depends on your mood. It becomes automatic. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't ask yourself every morning, do I feel like brushing today? No, you just do it. Why? Because it's part of your routine. That's how you need to approach your goals. They have to become part of who you are, not just something you do when you feel inspired. The people who win, the ones who actually make their goals happen, they aren't necessarily the most talented or the most motivated. They're the ones who are consistent. They show up day after day, week after week, month after month, until the results come. And it's not because every day feels great. It's because they've trained themselves to stay committed regardless of how they feel. They understand that discipline outlasts motivation. Think about athletes. You think they wake up every day excited to practice. No, they wake up sore, they wake up tired, they wake up unmotivated just like everyone else. But they still train, they still grind, because consistency is what makes them great. It's the same with business, with fitness, with relationships, with anything in life. Consistency creates momentum, and momentum is what carries you when motivation fades. And here's the beautiful part: when you stay consistent long enough, motivation actually starts to return. You start seeing results, you start feeling progress, and that progress fuels your desire to keep going. But you only get to that point if you push through the days when it feels hard. Too many people give up before they ever get to see what their consistency could have built. They quit when motivation runs out instead of pushing through until the habit takes over. So don't rely on feeling good to do the work. Rely on being consistent no matter what. Because when you make consistency the standard, success stops being a matter of if. It becomes a matter of when. One of the most overlooked parts of reaching any goal is tracking your progress. People set goals, they make plans, they even put in the work, but because they don't measure what they're doing, they can't see if they're moving forward or just spinning in circles. And when you can't see results, even small ones, it's easy to lose hope and stop believing the effort matters. But when you measure your growth, you give yourself proof that the grind is paying off, and that proof fuels you to keep going. Think about it like this: if you're trying to get in shape and you never step on the scale, never take a picture, never track your workouts, you might feel like nothing's changing even when your body is transforming. You could be making progress, but without measurement, you won't notice it. And if you don't notice it, you'll get discouraged and maybe even quit. On the other hand, if you're writing down every workout, if you're tracking your reps, if you're noting your weight each week, you'll see the gradual improvement. That improvement might be small, but it's real, and it will push you to keep moving. The same applies to your finances, your career, your relationships, anything you're trying to grow. If you don't track it, you can't improve it. It's like driving a car with no dashboard. You wouldn't know how fast you're going, how much gas you have left, or if something was wrong. You'd just be guessing, and eventually that guesswork would catch up to you. But when you monitor your progress, you get clarity. You can adjust. You can see where you're winning and where you need to improve. Tracking progress also creates accountability. It forces you to face the truth. Numbers don't lie. Results don't lie. If you said you were going to read every day, and at the end of the month your tracker shows you only read twice, that's the reality. It's not about beating yourself up. It's about being honest enough to adjust. Too often we let ourselves off the hook because we don't want to see the truth. But success doesn't come from avoiding the truth. It comes from facing it head on and doing something about it. And here's the key: tracking isn't just about celebrating the big wins. It's also about acknowledging the small ones. Every step matters. Every bit of progress deserves recognition. When you look back and see how far you've come, Even if you're not at the finish line yet, it builds confidence. It reminds you that you are moving, you are growing, and you are closer than you were yesterday. So don't just work blindly. Don't just assume effort equals progress. Measure it, write it down, keep track. Because what gets measured gets managed, and what gets managed gets mastered. One of the toughest truths about chasing goals is that you can't have everything right now. We live in a world that constantly pushes instant gratification, fast results, quick fixes, overnight success stories. But the reality is anything that lasts takes time. And if you're not willing to delay gratification, if you're not willing to put off temporary comfort for something greater, you'll never experience the fullness of what you're capable of achieving. Delayed gratification is the ability to say, I'll sacrifice today so I can enjoy more tomorrow. It's choosing discipline over desire, purpose over pleasure, the long term over the short term. Think about saving money. If you spend every dollar the moment it hits your account, you'll never build wealth. But if you learn to hold back, to invest, to sacrifice those impulse buys, years later you'll have something so much bigger than what you could have bought in the moment. The same applies to your health, your business, your relationships. Success comes when you're willing to wait, to grind, to endure the process instead of chasing the shortcut. And here's the thing, shortcuts almost always cost more in the end. The person who cheats their way to the top, the person who looks for the easy way out, might get results fast, but they don't last. They crumble because the foundation isn't solid. But the person who embraced the grind, who sacrificed, who built step by step, that person has something nobody can take away. Their success is built on sweat, on consistency, on patience. And that kind of success doesn't just last, it changes you in the process. Delayed gratification also trains your character. It builds resilience. Every time you say no to something small, you're strengthening your ability to handle something big. Every time you turn down an easy distraction, you're proving to yourself that you can stay locked in on the bigger vision. That discipline compounds. It makes you stronger, sharper, more focused. And eventually, what felt like a sacrifice in the beginning doesn't even feel like a loss anymore. It feels like alignment with your purpose. But here's where most people fall off. They want results, but they're not willing to wait for them. They get frustrated when it doesn't happen in weeks, when it takes months or years. They forget that greatness isn't microwave, it's slow cooked. You can't rush real success. You can't force fruit to grow before its season. All you can do is plant, water, nurture, and trust that if you stay patient and consistent, the harvest will come. So don't trade what you want most for what you want right now. Don't let a moment of comfort steal a lifetime of greatness, because the ability to delay gratification is the difference between people who dream about success and people who actually live it. Failure is one of those things that everybody fears, but nobody can avoid. The truth is, if you're serious about chasing your goals, you're going to fail at some point. You're going to fall short. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have days where you feel like everything you tried just didn't work. But failure is not the end. Failure is feedback. It's the world's way of showing you what doesn't work so you can adjust, learn, and come back stronger. The problem isn't failing. The problem is when people let failure convince them to stop trying. Think about how many breakthroughs in life only came because somebody was willing to fail over and over again. Every invention, every business, every achievement you admire today exists because somebody didn't quit after their first setback. They understood that each failure was just another step closer to getting it right. Failure sharpens you. It humbles you. It strips away the arrogance and replaces it with wisdom. It's like going to the gym. Those weights tear your muscles down, but the rebuild makes you stronger. Failure does the same thing for your mind and your character. The difference between people who make their goals happen and those who don't is simple. The ones who succeed refuse to let failure define them. They see it as part of the journey, not the end of the journey. They don't sit in self-pity. They don't waste time blaming others. They don't throw away the whole vision because one part didn't go as planned. Instead, they ask the right questions. What can I learn from this? How can I adjust? What's the lesson hidden inside this setback? That's the mindset that transforms failure into fuel. And here's the truth. Failure will expose whether you really want what you said you wanted. Because if one mistake is enough to make you quit, then maybe you weren't committed in the first place. But if you can fail and still come back, if you can take the hit and still keep pushing, that's when you know your why is strong enough. That's when you prove to yourself that the vision is worth every obstacle. Most people run from failure like it's a wall, but in reality, it's a doorway. It doesn't block you. It teaches you how to walk through. It gives you new strategies, new perspectives. New levels of resilience that you would never have discovered if everything went smoothly. The setbacks prepare you for the success, because if you got it too easily, you wouldn't have the strength or wisdom to keep it. So don't be afraid to fail, and don't be ashamed when you do. Wear your failures like badges of honor, because they mean you're in the arena, you're trying, you're fighting for something. And if you're willing to learn from them, every failure you face will become a stepping stone to the success you've been chasing all along. Who you surround yourself with will either build your future or break it down. You can have all the clarity in the world, the strongest why, the best plan. But if you're constantly around people who don't believe in your vision, who don't push you to grow, who drain your energy instead of fueling it, eventually will take a toll on you. Energy is contagious. Attitudes are contagious. If you spend every day around negativity, doubt, or laziness, don't be surprised when it starts rubbing off on you. The truth is, no one makes it alone. Even the people we see as self-made didn't get there by themselves. They had mentors, coaches, friends, or a circle that pushed them when they wanted to stop. That's why you've got to choose your circle carefully. Not everybody deserves access to you. Not everybody should have a voice in your life. If you're serious about your goals, you need people who lift you higher, people who challenge you, people who remind you of your potential when you forget it yourself. Sometimes that means making tough decisions. It might mean distancing yourself from people you've known for years. It might mean limiting conversations that always go nowhere. It might mean letting go of relationships that feel comfortable but don't align with where you're headed. That's not easy, but growth and comfort rarely live in the same place. And understand this, cutting someone off doesn't always mean you stop caring about them. It means you stop allowing their energy to pull you away from your purpose. On the flip side, when you build the right circle, it changes everything. Imagine being surrounded by people who are chasing their goals with the same intensity you are. Imagine being around people who celebrate your wins but also hold you accountable when you slack. That environment pushes you to level up. It creates a standard where average isn't acceptable and growth is expected. You start to see what's possible because you're surrounded by proof that it can be done. And don't just look for people who are ahead of you, though that's important too. Look for people who are growing in different areas of life. Someone might teach you discipline. Another might teach you strategy. Another might simply remind you of the importance of balance. Every person in your circle should bring something to the table. And in return, you bring something to them. That's how powerful communities are built. You'll notice the more intentional you get about your circle, the more intentional your life becomes. Because the right people will not let you settle. They won't let you waste your gifts. They won't let you give up on the vision. And when you put yourself in an environment like that, success stops being a lonely pursuit and becomes a shared journey. So take a hard look at who's around you, because your circle is either watering your growth or suffocating it. At some point, after all the planning, after all the clarity, after finding your why, breaking things down, staying consistent, tracking your progress, learning patience, and surrounding yourself with the right people, there's only one thing left to do: take action. Because no matter how perfect the plan looks on paper, no matter how strong the vision feels in your heart, nothing changes until you move. Execution is the bridge between dreams and reality. Too many people live in the world of ideas. They talk about what they're going to do. They write it down. They dream about it. They even get excited about it. But they never execute. And an idea without execution will always just be a wish. The truth is, action doesn't have to be big or flashy. It doesn't have to be some grand gesture. Action is simply doing the next thing you know you need to do. Sometimes it's making a phone call. Sometimes it's sending an email. Sometimes it's taking the first step toward a new habit. Small actions done consistently stack up to create massive change. But if you keep waiting for the perfect moment, if you keep telling yourself you'll start when you feel ready, you'll be waiting forever. There is no perfect moment. The perfect moment is the one you decide to start. And here's what a lot of people don't realize: taking action creates clarity. You don't need to have every detail figured out before you move. You figure it out by moving. You make mistakes, you adjust, you learn, and then you move again. The longer you wait to start, the longer you delay those lessons. That's why people who take action seem to grow so much faster than those who hesitate. They're learning in real time. Action also builds confidence. Every time you move, you prove to yourself that you're capable. You don't have to feel fearless to act, you act. And the courage shows up along the way. Think about it. The first time you tried anything, you weren't confident, but you kept practicing, you kept showing up, and eventually you got better. Confidence is not a prerequisite for action. It's a result of it. And understand this execution isn't a one-time event. It's a lifestyle. It's waking up every day and deciding to do something that moves you forward. Some days it'll be big, some days it'll be small, but the key is that you never stop moving. Because once you stop, momentum dies. And momentum is everything. It's what turns effort into progress and progress into achievement. So stop waiting for everything to line up perfectly. Stop overthinking. Stop convincing yourself you need more time, more resources, more preparation. You already have enough to start. And if you take action today, you'll be that much closer to the life you've been imagining. Because at the end of the day, dreams don't work unless you do.